What is going on, everybody? It is early March. I haven't done one of these for a little while, so I thought I would get back on the old guide vlog program here, mainly for Elliot Brass, because if I don't show him what to do out here, he doesn't know what's going on. This one's for you, buddy. I'm just gonna run through and do something that I haven't done yet, and just go through some tips and some tactics on how to fish skinny water on a bright sunny day, which is kind of what we have today. It's kind of overcast a little bit, but what we deal with this time of year in early March is a lot of really low water systems that we're fishing here in the Pacific Northwest. They are all glacier fed, rain fed, snow fed, so we're kind of at the mercy of freezing levels. When the freezing level is low, there's no water coming into the system, so everything is tightens up. It makes for tricky fishing. And so what I thought I'd do today is run through a few skinny water tips here, and maybe you get something out of it, maybe you don't. Here we go. Starting off here, gear wise, these are the two rods that I really fish the most in the spring. Pureway 600 rod here. I haven't set up yet. Spooled up with Islander 4.0. This is a 600. So this is sort of my go-to steelhead salmon rod. And this is the rod I'm gonna fish today. It's a Pureway 510. 510 is the grain weight, and I got an Islander LX 3.8 on here. This is a nice rod for sort of bull trout fishing, fishing some smaller stuff. So this is the rod I'm gonna fish today. So we got Skagit line on there, Skagit short, and then what I get asked the most is what tip do we use? So what sink tip do we use? I run sort of only two tips, and they're both IMO tips. It's a 5-5 T11 or a 5-5 T8. And you might think that's light, but that's just what we fish here. We're not really targeting fish in any more than usually 2 or 3 feet of water. So this system will get down to it. If you're curious about what a tip is, and I don't know if you can see that on here, but so this says 5/5 T8, which is telling you that it has 5 feet of floating line and then 5 feet of sinking line. If you're ever curious what a fly line is and you just don't know fly lines at all, anything that's light in color is always going to float. So a yellow or a white, light blue is always going to float, and anything that's dark is always going to sink. I'm usually not fishing deep water. I'm trying to swing that fly into shallow water and fish as shallow spots as I can without getting hung up. If you move to a straight 10-foot sink tip, or you move to a heavier tip like a T14, you'll find yourself on bottom a lot. It gets a little frustrating. And a lot of the time what we're trying to do is we're trying to swing this fly into the shallowest water possible and see if there's a fish in here. So this system seems to do it. There's not really any reason to fish anything heavier than that. These fish are feeding looking up, or they're going to hit something that they're going to look up at. So if you can swing this stuff through shallow water, that's sort of key for skinny water fishing. And then the other key is just dumb down your leader a little bit. And the trout guys are going to laugh, but 12 pound, straight 12 pound for us is dumbing it down out here. When we get a little bit more colored conditions, we can move up to a 15 pound leader, but like 4 or 5 straight feet of 12 pound maximum is my go-to. If you just run it through your thumb like this, you'll straighten your leader out. It kind of heats it up and gets it a little bit more pliable. And then with this loop system here, and this one's getting pretty worn out. With this is tie a figure 8 on a bite. The knot that I found just works the best. It holds the best. You guys will fish perfection loop or whatever else, but that's kind of the go-to. Clean up your tag end. And don't throw this on the ground. It seems minimal, but this is something that just all good anglers should take that, throw in your waders. Don't spit it out on the ground. And then with this little loop system here, most people know how it works, but if you don't, this is your tip right here, your leader material over the tip. And then this section where your fly is gonna go in a minute is gonna come through, and then you got a nice sort of system, nice and strong. Check your knots, right? That's the one thing you wanna do, is just give it a little pull test, always. I will pop probably 1 out of like 6 or 7 knots, just sort of the way it is. And then fly selection, I'm gonna fish, because I'm fishing this 8, type 8, which is a really slow sinking line, I'm gonna fish like a little bit of a heavier fly, but I'm gonna fish something small. I find that if you fish really big stuff, when the water's low, clear, and sunny, the fish will actually swim off of it. I've watched fish sit there and swim off of it. So just find a bug here. My fly box is a little bit of a mess, but I'm running a little light on flies, but I tied a whole pile of these. And this is kind of one of my go-to patterns in the spring out here. Call it the Mr. March, but it's a fly pattern that seems to work out here. You get all kind of things eating it. There's number one, we always check that our barbs are crimped. And then I'm just gonna run a little loop knot here. Well, if you don't know what a loop knot is, a loop knot lets your fly kind of swing a little bit. Just gives it a little bit more action in the water. Clean up your tag. It's kind of gonna look like that. You can see how it moves around a little bit on there. What else do I gotta tell you? Not much. That's pretty easy, right? And then we'll just kind of run through. I'll show you why we fish this T8, why we fish this light line, and try to give you a few tips as we go through and fish some of this water. So what I'm doing with this light tip, and I mean, it's a weighted fly, but it doesn't have a ton of weight to it. What I'm trying to do is when I'm fishing this run, I'm trying to throw a big long cast out. I'm trying to throw a mend into it right away, and then I'm gonna high stick it. And what I mean by high sticking it is I'm gonna toss that line out, I'm gonna throw that big mend into it, and then I'm just gonna get everything as much as I can up off of the water. And what I'm trying to do is just have my Skagit head kind of floating out there with my tip coming off of it, and then my fly. As my line comes around, I'm gonna put a little mend into it. And that's because I'm fishing that light tip, light fly, and I'm just trying to get it down. So as it comes around, you can put more than one mend into it. A mend just means to fix, so I'm not mending it to do anything except slow that fly down and get it to sink a little bit. As it comes around, everything starts dying on the inside. So now I don't have the same flow, and I'm also shallowing up. So as that line comes around, I'm just gonna start picking it up. So I got this running line in my hand, and I'm just starting to pick it up. And the only reason is, I'm not trying to put action on the fly, I'm just trying to keep that fly in the water column and not hang up on bottom. The closer you can fish any of these flies to the bank, the better off you are. You will find fish that live on the bank. So don't always think that these fish are way out in the middle, and the only place you might find one is way out there. There's a lot of the time is you'll get those fish coming and grabbing on the hang. So when that fly line comes around, starts to slow down, you still have your sink tip and your Skagit head and your 4 feet a leader and your fly that are still swinging around. And very often in this kind of fishing, you will find those fish sitting on the hang, which are right down below you up against the bank. That's why we're fishing this light tip too, so I can fish it into the bank as much as possible. If you can fish with those lighter tips and those lighter flies a little deeper into the tail outs, very often you can sort of see in here, there's some big rocks in there. And very often on these low clear conditions, you'll get a fish that is gonna come back, and instead of living sort of up in the normal part of where you would think it would be, very often they'll push back into this stuff right here. A little faster moving, shallower. And the fact that they have a little bit of protection is a good thing. That is as skinny water fishing as you want to do. So skinny that I actually just popped my head off. That is my Skagit head. I popped the Skagit head off in a bunch of nugs. So hopefully you got something out of the day. If nothing else, you got to laugh. Haven't done that before. But yeah, skinny water, light tips, lighter flies, dummy down your leader just a little bit, 10 or 12 pound test, and fish fast, fish through all the stuff that you think you might be a fish in, fish through it fast. If they're not gonna eat it, they're not going to eat it, so, or they're not home. And fish into tailouts like I just did, and fish where there's a little bit of protection. So swing that fly in a spot where there's shadow, or maybe a little deeper, there's some big nuggets. And that is the pro tips right there. Thanks for checking it out. I'll try to run a few more of these over the next little bit, and hope everyone's staying safe and being awesome, and thanks for watching.